Good evening. This side Rahul Magan here as a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting. As we speak, Treasury Consulting is a multinational headquartered group based out Singapore. We are a multinational multi-asset hedge fund. By multinational, we mean we take positions at various locations. By multi-asset, we mean we take positions in multiple asset. As we speak, hedge fund is 100% profitable. But like I repeated many a times, we are a proprietary hedge fund. By proprietary, I mean no third party. I repeat, no third party can invest capital in our fund. Today, I would be covering the gold outlook for rest of the year. But before that, I request the people from media, Bloomberg, CNN, Wall Street, New York Times, and rest media professionals not to watch this video. Because if you would be watching this video, it would really be hurting your emotions. So please do not watch this video. We knew that what is happening in the global market. Number one, majority of the countries of the globe are facing huge debt issue. Huge debt issue. Specifically speaking in Asia, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. These are the four economies, practically speaking, on the verge of collapse. Bangladesh has already requested International Monetary Fund for a bailout. Please do remember that International Monetary Fund having its own limitations. They cannot bail out the whole universe. They bailed out Sri Lanka and now Bangladesh is asking, so they have their own limitations. Probably Nepal would also be asking soon. And in Asia, as we speak, even the countries like Singapore, to be honest, who claims to be the global financial center on paper, they are reeling under the debt to GDP ratio of around 140%. 140%. Practically speaking, there is hardly any country in Asia. Let me speak. There is hardly any country in Asia whose debt to GDP ratio either not reached 100% or it is not above 100%. Majority of the Asian economies are reeling under 100% debt to GDP ratio. This prefixes my point, which is known as debt overhang. In economics, the meaning of debt overhang means when debt crossed a sustainable level. And this is what we are witnessing in Asia. If you are thinking Europe is an exception, then think carefully. Europe and European countries are nowhere an exception. This is one of the important factors why I'm always in the favor of gold. Because gold and debt are having negative and inverse relationship with each other. Which means that whenever a country defaults, the investor, which includes private equity, sovereign wealth fund, pension fund, big hedge fund, and sometimes the governments, they move towards safe haven. And safe haven means gold. So gold and debt are having negative and inverse relationship. We have seen what had happened to Sri Lanka. We had seen the Sri Lankan rupee. We are witnessing Pakistan. We are witnessing Bangladesh. And eventually we will witness more countries. The more the countries default in the near term, by near term I mean in another 2 years of time, the more good it would be for the gold. And if you are thinking that the countries will not default, then you are mistaken, because the countries would default. The reason being, there is a limitation as far as the debt ceiling is concerned. Second important point why I am bullish on gold is the interest rate. Today, 5th August 2022, Reserve Bank of India hiked by 50 basis point. So stories like that, in the very first move, they hiked by 40 basis point. Then they hiked by 50 basis point. And now they hiked again by 50 basis point, which means if I add the three, it is total near about 1.4%. Still, Reserve Bank of India is behind the curve, not from the angle of the inflation, but from the angle of Federal Reserve. So if we compare the Federal Reserve, then Reserve Bank of India is behind the curve. Today, Bank of England also hiked by 50 basis point since last 27 years. From 1995 till 2022, which means approximately 27 years, it is the highest rate hike by Bank of England. Federal Reserve last week hiked it by 75 basis point, and they were very clear that they would be hiking more provided they need to stem inflation. Now, if these central banks are thinking they would be able to tame the inflation with the hike in the interest rate, then they are number one wrong in the world, because history is witness that majority of the decisions took up by the central banks went horrifically wrong. From 2008 till 2022, majority of the decisions taken went horrifically wrong, and this decision would also go against. Example, Credit Suisse today on 5th August 2022 made a public statement. Do you know what is that public statement? I know. People don't care about these public statements. The reason is the knowledge. People do not have the knowledge and they tend to disregard the knowledge. Credit Suisse is cutting jobs, thousands of jobs globally. Thousands of jobs globally. Tesla is cutting jobs. Microsoft already cut jobs. Google freezed the hiring. Facebook freezed the hiring. Amazon is cutting the cost. Almost everyone is doing that. Ford Motors cutting 8,000 jobs. Many other auto players of the globe, they are cutting jobs. But these central banks who are paid and compromised, they repeatedly saying that the labor market is strong. I personally feel that by 2023 June, this is my personal intervention, by 2023 June, these central banks would reach the height of interest rate. Now, the hike of interest rate means the peak interest rate, and from that point of time, they won't be able to rise the rates. If they are thinking they would be able to control the inflation, then the time will tell. Just like in India, after every scandal, the regulator is saying they now controlled the scandals, the frauds are in control, and the system is safe. After 2 months, another scandal. Similarly, if these regulators are thinking by hiking 25 basis point or maybe 50 basis point, they would be able to control the inflation, then they are wrong. When these central bank will neutralize the rates, which means at a given point of time, which I feel June 2023, probably 1 year from now, when they would be start deneutralizing the rates, the gold will shoot up like this. In fact, gold is up today because 2 weeks ago, Einstein, Edison's, Newton's told in the public domain that gold would be touching 1650, and the whole market were envisaging that gold would come down, and they sold gold. I know many of my friends in India and worldwide who sold the gold in a huge quantities. And when the Federal Reserve decision came, gold was around 1715 at that point of time. Rather than going to 1650 as per Einstein, Edison's and Newton's, gold went up to 1790. As we speak and we are making this video, the gold is near about 1780. Our desk bought gold at 1680. We bought 1695. We bought 1700 and 1710. And we book good profits in the gold because we were very clear that the more rates these central banks would be hiking, the more damage it would happen to the economy and the gold will go up. Third important point why I personally bullish on gold is the war or the geopolitical issue, which includes the Russia-Ukraine factor and the Taiwan-China factor. From the last 6 months, NATO, European alliances and US is providing weapons to, the Ukraine. Unfortunately, even after providing the sophisticated weapons, Ukraine is not being able to get an inch of territory back from the Russia. As we speak, multiple articles on the Google suggesting that around 35 to 40%, I repeat, 35 to 40% of the Ukrainian territory is being held by the Russians, and Russian forces are advancing. According to information that more advanced weapons would come in the hands of Russia very soon, which they would be sending to Ukraine, and we all know what would happen. Now China also started a war with Taiwan. Yesterday, when US Speaker Pelosi left Taiwan, China fired 11 plastic missiles, and 4 of them flew over Taiwan, which, by the way, practically speaking, is a legal violation of the territory. To be honest, legal violation of the territory, and majority of these 11 missiles landed one of the islands of Japan. But the beauty is Japan only condemned it, took no military action, because Japan knew that their economy is in dire shape, huge dire shape. Their currency is falling. 2 months ago, one Japanese yen was 110. Now it is 134. It has touched the high of 138. And I personally see Japanese yen at 150 very soon. Now, if China would attack Taiwan, which by the way is a probability, I feel so, In this eventuality, it would trigger a mess for the US, because US has to choose either Ukraine or Taiwan. They cannot choose the both. And my personal feeling or my research suggesting US would be choosing Taiwan than the Ukraine. In any eventuality, Russia is going to win. If Russia is going to win in this eventuality, the gold would shoot up like this. Probably today Israel fired on Gaza. If there is another conflict between Israel and Gaza, as always, then we know what is going to get happen. Considering this as a backdrop, I personally is bullish on gold. I am bullish on gold, but that video doesn't mean that I am asking anyone to buy the gold. I feel that the media, Bloomberg, and various other channels are misguiding people, misrepresenting the facts, and they are pro-dollar. But the hard reality is that the dollar is losing. There are evidences we have on Google which suggesting that the dollar is losing as far as the global reserve currency is concerned. To conclude the today's session, to me it hardly matters how many views, like, dislike, comments, subscribers I will get. To me it hardly matters. To me it hardly matters the Bloomberg, CNN, New York Times, and other media channels, Indian business channel, how they are presenting the gold. To me, what matters, what my research is suggesting on the gold, and my research is suggesting that gold is bullish. And my fund is bullish on gold. But having said that, there are 3 ways to hedge the gold. I repeat, there are 3 ways to hedge the gold. Number 1 is the COMEX platform. Number 2 is the CFDs. And number 3 is the ETFs. Now this is very technical. An intelligent person needs to understand all 3. An intelligent person needs to devote the money in all 3. To conclude, my fund is completely hedged. Completely hedged. That's what to me matters. Thank you very much. This is Rahul Magan from Treasury Consulting Group. You know my personal number 9899242978. Have a great time ahead.